Well, hello everybody. Danny back from Pecan Grove. And as promised, I'm going to do a updated review on the Ibex TX31 hay baler. Some things that I found on it, the pros and the cons on it, as the things that you might want to look for. And maybe the company will see this and say, hey, we might want to look at that, you know, because that's what I do in my life. I've done this type of stuff my whole life. I've gone through and on pieces of equipment for different companies. I used to demo for Husqvarna and different things like that, finding out issues for companies. And I found a few issues on the Ibex that I think is very simple to fix. Matter of fact, I'm going to fix them today. But I think that it would do good for people ahead of time to know what they're looking at whenever they find this. Now, this is very minor. When I say issues, the issues we're going to talk about today are very, very minor and very easy to fix. Okay, first of all, let's talk about some of the good features that I liked about it. The fact that it was almost maintenance free while we were using it. It did a fantastic job of raking the hay and everything. It was very easy to operate, not anything really hard to do. I think anybody could pretty much do it. The instructions were very thorough about anything that I had on it. I couldn't say enough good about it. It done fantastic. It did not give me any issues, hardly at all. We did the whole field in just a short period of time. Once I got beyond a couple of little issues that was probably more my fault than it was anything else. But the overall performance of it was really, really good. Now, some things I want to talk about that was not the baler's fault, it was my fault. One time the string broke, and when the string broke, I didn't pay any attention, and I ran the string across the top of this right here. Now this is spring loaded right here. I ran the string across the top here because I thought that's where it was at, and I dropped it down in here. Well, when my little tiny knot come through where I joined the two rolls together came through here, well, it got right here, and it snapped it right there. And I was like, that shouldn't have done that because this is spring loaded. Well, I got to looking when I pulled it out. It was my fault because I should have ran the string through the center of it right there instead of over the top of it here. And I'd actually baled several bales before I realized this. So that was not the baler's fault. That was my fault. But that's one thing you can look at. And another thing that I kept having issues with is when the wind was blowing so hard, because guys, the wind was blowing really hard when we were baling, this string would sit out here and would blow in the wind like this. And when I would let it down, when it would go down to suck the string up in it, sometimes it would have to sit there for a moment for this string because it kept wanting to blow it out like this. And it would, before the rollers there would catch it, and finally the rollers would catch it, and I'd see the thing start, moving, going backwards and forwards across it. The other thing that I ran into with it was over here. I'm gonna have to hold this one because it won't hold itself the way it's sitting. Was because my tractor it's a subcompact tractor, but it's a 2601. And it's very high off the ground. And in order for me to get the tines where they needed to be at down here, I had to readjust all this in here. And I ran out of adjustment at the back here before I actually got it to go what I'd call perfect, for the Kubota 2601. And that's probably not the company's fault. I had to unscrew the bolts here and had to undo the one right back here. And I finally got it down to where it was maybe this high off of the ground, and it still picked up the grass. So that wasn't too much of an issue. It's just that because it's so far down there now, you've got to really put a lot of pressure on this right here to unlock that to get it to go down, because it's just way down there. Now, Very easy to clean. I took a leaf blower. That's what they recommended. I came in here with a leaf blower, and I blowed everything out, and it done a fantastic job cleaning it back up. So I didn't really have any problems with that. Now I did shear 3 bolts off on it right here. And they are some bolts here. I'm gonna have to go to town and get me some more to replace those with. But I did shear 3 bolts because the grass piles that the wind rode up. See, the day that I wind rode it, the wind was blowing so hard that the grass would get caught on the big wheel and it would throw it in big piles. Well, what would happen is when I'd come up to one of those big piles, if I was going just a little bit too fast, it would grab too much grass at one time and throw it up in the baler. Well, when it did, it would shear the bolt off right here. And let me tell you, if you shear a bolt off in it, you just as well keep you a Stilson wrench, or we call them a monkey wrench, on the tractor with you, because what you've got to do is you've got to come right here and put that Stilson wrench on this right here, and you've got to turn this till you get that bolt hole to line back up. These 2 pieces run separate with one another once a bolt shears. You've got to be able to take a Stilson wrench here and turn this. You're not going to do it by hand to line those 2 bolt holes back up to be able to put that in there with.
So now, these are the extra ones for this?
Yes, these are the extra bolts here that go in this right here.
So they do send some extras. That's a plus.
That's a plus. That's a plus. They do send extras. And I recommend, if you break 1 or 2, like I have 3 of them already, is go on and get you some more to replace them with, because you don't know whenever it's going to happen again. You know,
always be prepared.
Always be prepared. Now that, you know, the baler itself done a fantastic job. Now, it took me a while to realize, and it could have been in the instructions, I just didn't see it. I learned that when the back of it comes up, if I kill the tractor, it just sits there and gradually eases down. It's probably my fault, it's in the instructions somewhere. But there's a lever right here that when you pick it up, if you get off back here fast enough, you run back here and throw that lever up. When that top's up, it'll hold the top up and won't let it leak down. You know, that's what that lever is there for. It does a great job. Now, we kept having trouble when it sucked too much grass up in here. We'd have to open the back up, let the roll fall out, and then we'd have to get here and manually, once we switched everything off, push all the grass back up inside the baler here, and then start all over again. So that's pretty much. I mean, not much to talk about as far as problems in that aspect. Chris and I did 87 rolls all together on that field, and the pecan orchard together, and the field up here in the front. All of them combined was 87 rolls. And I felt like that when I did the 87 rolls, that was a pretty good amount for me to do to see if this was going to have any more issues. And it performed, I'm going to have to say, flawlessly, you know. Now, there is some issues with the hay baling string. You want to make sure. They sent me, matter of fact, I ordered several rolls of hay baling string from them to make sure that I got the right ones. But I am noticing some of the string that I got from them in one of the rolls is bigger. This roll won't go over here when it's new because this is in the way. I had to put it over here, and they had some smaller rolls. I'm able to put the smaller roll over here, and because I even tried to jump up and down on it, and it didn't work out, jumping up and down on it, you know. So I just moved the bigger ones over here, and I have some smaller ones to go over here. Now, one thing I ran into with this string is, I don't know if we can get right here where we can see it, but see what it's doing right here? Let me get the light where maybe you can see it. Now, this hasn't been run through it yet, but inside that roll of string, it's kind of fuzzed up pretty bad there and frayed up looking. See how it looks on it?
That's just in the string.
That's in the roll of string. That's nothing to do with them. That's in the roll of string that I got from them. That kind of stuff was giving us some issues going through some of the pulleys in here. It was giving us a few issues getting through those pulleys and getting up here. We had that happen 2 or 3 times. It broke. And I had to rethread it.
So that's a string issue.
That's a string issue. Just be aware that that can happen to you. Now, let's get over here and talk about some things that I know that the company needs to work on. The alamites, or we call them zerks. Right here was an alamite screwed in right here. When I put the grease gun on it and I greased it, when I went to take the grease gun off of it, the end broke off the alamite. Okay, I said, well, it's not too bad. So there was one right here. When I came in here to grease this one right here, I put the grease gun on it. When I went to take it off, that one broke off. I was like, okay, we got an issue here. So I talked to a friend of mine who works on farm equipment and hay baling equipment, new stuff from the companies. And he told me, he said, Danny, let me just tell you, you just as well take all the alamites out of this thing and replace it. He said, we've done learned when we get new equipment in, we just start taking the alamites out of them and changing them and putting good alamites in them. He said, because they're making them out of poor quality material. Now, it does have other alamites on it here. One, let's see, where is it at, if I can find it. Up under, here's one right here. I don't know if Miss Wanda can get to it. See that one right there? That one right there. It didn't break off with me, but I was really easy after the first two broke off, and I was very, very easy. It didn't break off. There's one right up here. This one I was very easy with it. It did not break off. And there's one more right here. That one right there. It did. I was very easy. It did not break off. And there was another one down in here. Now this one was very difficult to get to right there. And it didn't break off either. So I was very, very careful with those, trying to keep them from breaking off. Now, there's an issue on this side over here. When we came over here, I want y'all to look at, you see this alamite right here? There's absolutely no way to get to that alamite and grease it with these pulleys on here. You would have to take these pulleys off of here to be able to actually grease that one, because it's sticking straight out and these pulleys are in the way. So I have bought some 90-degree ones that I'm going to see if I can get that out and get a 90-degree one in there and let it stick out right down here and not hit the gear. I'm going to try to see if I can make that happen. Because, guys, there's absolutely no way to grease that alamite unless you take these pulleys all off there. And them chains loose and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to do that. Now, there's one right here that you have to grease. I'm going to probably change that one out. I was very, very easy with that one. Easing it on, easing it off, just so I did not, so I didn't break it. And I think on the alamites, that is the only ones. Everything else seemed to have sealed bearings in it that I could find. I got to digging around in the twine here looking, and I noticed all that looked pretty good. What I found out was I pulled off about 4 or 5 foot of it, and what I figured out here is this is where they put rolls of string together at, is the reason it was all fuzzed up and frayed up as bad as it was. So that's one thing you might have to deal with your twine, is where they put it together at. This is just something they done. It's in the middle of a roll. Ain't nothing you can do about that. See this alamite right here? There was absolutely no way to get a grease gun in there to grease that.
Because it's turned upside down.
They had it sticking straight out this way, and there was no way to get a grease gun in there. So I took out some. I went to town to get alamites. In our town, they don't sell millimeter alamites. So what I did was bought the standard ones, and I come home and I have a die set, and I recut the threads on the standard ones down to metric where they would screw up in there, and I screwed a 45-degree angle one on here. Now I can grease it without any problems whatsoever. Now the one that we were looking at, right up under here, right there, that one there, I took it out and put a 45-degree angle one in there, You can't do that because there's a lip right here. This lip on this metal right here will not allow, once you screw it down in there, a grease gun will not go over the end of it. And I tried leaving it sticking up this angle, but the chain was in the way. I tried it all different angles. I tried a 15-degree one, it won't go in there. I tried a 30-degree one, it won't go in there. I tried a 45-degree one, it won't go in there because the sprocket's in the way of turning it to put it in there. So what I had to do was retap or rethread a 45-degree angle one and screw it in there like 3 threads and take my grease gun and pop it up on it and pump the grease in it till it came out. It'll come out like right here. There's where the grease comes out at, right there. And I pumped it till it came out there, and then I screwed it back out and I put the straight one back in there. And trust me, it is an act of Congress to get those things in and out because there's nowhere to put your fingers at up in there. But that is an issue right there that the company probably needs to deal with right here, is to fix that so that it can be greased some other way. I don't know how. Put maybe a sealed bearing or something, I don't know. But that is a big, big deal every time you go to grease it. So I've got it all greased, everything's all ready to go, ready to hit the field. I just thought I'd share those few things with you there. Other than that, guys, I love the Ibex TX31 Baler. As far as I can tell, after 87 bales, the alamites are the only real issue I found with this hay baler. And those, I went to town this morning and I bought all new alamites. I bought straight ones, I bought 45-degree ones, I bought 90-degree ones. I'm going to take the mechanic's advice. I'm going to go through and change them all out. The ones that's hard to get to, I'm going to change. The rest of them, like this, I'm not worried about these because if these break, I can get to it really easy. But anything down in here that's very difficult to grease, I'm going to go ahead and change all those out because the last thing I want is to have an issue with an alamite right when I'm getting ready to start baling. Now, I'm all about maintenance on something. I believe in, my daddy raised me, you keep it greased, and it's kind of like we were taught. You take care of your weapon and your weapon will take care of you. How you treat your weapon is how your weapon will treat you. You know, you don't want to get in a critical situation and your weapon fail on you, or you don't want to get in your critical situation with a piece of equipment like this and it fail on you because you didn't take care of it ahead of time. The owner of Tractor Tools Direct contacted us personally and thanked us for doing the videos and stuff like this. Gave me his phone number, told me if I had any issues or anything I wanted to talk about or discuss or anything that I felt like was a major issue or something, that I could contact him personally. And I appreciate that when the owner of a company thinks enough to contact you personally and give you their personal number to deal with their equipment. That tells me that they are really willing to stand behind their equipment. And like I said, the only issues I found with this is the alamites. You know, so if you're interested in the Ibex TX31, guys, I can't say enough good about it because I think I like it. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, for the small homesteaders out there that don't have huge acreages to deal with, you know, I'm saying this right here, this is really the way to go because it's not economical to spend. I mean, I looked at the Kubota ones because I have Kubota tractors and everything, and I'm talking about $45,000 for hay balers and stuff like that. And then you got to buy the rake, and then you got to buy the cutters. It's just not feasible to do it. Now, these were within our, what we felt like was a comfortable price range for what we would use here on our homestead. Now, I already had the sickle bar cutter for my Cub, and it does a good job, but in the extreme heat, you know, I'm probably going to have something different in the future to cut hay in the summertime with. Now, it's okay to cut hay with that in the early spring when you got cool days still to cut with, But I learned right quick, like cutting that big field with it up there, that sickle bar, that I'm probably going to have to find a different type of cutter to cut my pastures with. And they do sell a drum cutter that I may look at in the future. It's just that right now, you know, this is what I could afford. And they sold the hay rake because I didn't feel like I needed a big 4-wheel hay rake when I only needed a small windrow of grass. I figured the 2-wheel rake would work fine. And it did. The only issues I found on the hay rake was that when you're sitting in the tractor, the hay rake is not angled enough. I may actually in the future, when I've got someone here with me who can weld, since my eyes is messed up, I can't weld anymore. We may cut that thing off and move it in about 3 or 4, 5 degrees or something other and re-weld it back on there so that it rolls the grass a lot more efficient. Like it is, it has a tendency to want to drag more than it wants to spin and roll. So that's a little minor issue there that I think we'll probably fix ourselves in the future. But you know, if you've got 40, 50 acres, 60 acres of grass, and you're selling hay commercially, you know, that this may not be the way to go unless you're in the business of selling to people who have goats and sheep and like small herds of cows and stuff like that, and they don't own equipment to handle the big giant rolls like I do. Then that's where these small balers are going to come in handy. Now, a lot of people have questioned me about why not just stick with the square balers, you know, because they make a square bale. Well, a square bale, which I've done my whole life, I have a New Holland square baler up here right now, which I'm going to sell because I don't want it now. After using this, I just don't want it. When you have a square bale, you've got to grab those strings, which digs into your hands right here, and you got to pick up, which is about a 50-pound bale if they're done right. And you got to tote them and pick them up and stack them up on stuff. And if that string breaks, you lose the whole bale. Or if you're trying to feed it to animals and you have to cut both strings, then the whole bale pops open like an accordion, and you have to use the whole bale at that time because it's just everywhere. Where with the round bales, I've discovered I stack mine on their ends. I don't lay them down flat ways like the honeycomb look. I stand them on their ends because that's the way I like to do it. And we have a video, if it hasn't already showed, it'll either be added to this one or it will be shown in another video. With it standing on the end, you can reach and grab that string and it'll just unwind all the way off of it, and you can put the string in a 5-gallon bucket or whatever, you know, if you want to reuse it for something else, like tying up tomatoes or peppers or whatever, you know, you want to use on the farm. Then the roll it's still intact. It doesn't fall apart. And I show me picking it up and using it in my bucket on my tractor, how I feed my cows with it. And also you can take that roll of hay just like it is. You can pick it up, it doesn't fall apart, and you can take a 55-gallon drum and you can cut these half moons around the bottom edge of it, 3 of them. You cut 2 on one side and 1 in the front. You can drop that bale, which fits perfectly down in a 55-gallon drum. Makes a great feeder for a goat, for sheep, calves, and they don't waste a lot of hay that way. You can't really do that with square bale. So that's one reason I'm getting away from the square baler. Plus the square baler,
it's a pain.
It's just a pain. The knot tying, sometimes don't tie a knot like it's supposed to if it gets too dirty. And sometimes if you don't get the compression part of it just right, one side of it is adjusted more than the other side, then the bale comes out, it's kind of egg-shaped over to one side, it's bowed out. And then sometimes I've had them when they bounce along there and they fall out the back end of it and hit the ground, the string comes off of them. You don't have that with these, you know. And I'm baling, I'm cutting usually by myself, I'm raking by myself. 90% of the time I'm by myself when I'm baling. This year, luckily, Chris was with me on one of the times, and he could run along in the Kubota with a trailer and pick them up and throw them in the back of the trailer for me and stack them in the building. And a lot of people go, yeah, but you still have to pick them up to stack them. Guys, I turn around with my grapple on my tractor, and I just run out there, and I reach down and lightly touch that bale and pick it up and set it in the back of the Kubota trailer while Miss Wanda drives around. And when we get over to the place here, I can take the tractor and reach in and pick them up and set them on the floor in the building. And all I do at that point is just come in there and stand them up on their ends. It's not hard to do. And then if I have to pick them up, I'm only picking them up like to right here, and I just stack them end on end across there. Now, if I need help putting them up really high, then I can get one of the grandkids, or I can get Chris or somebody here to help me stack them up high. I don't have all that. I'm not sitting here toting a square bale around trying to, because the square bales you can't pick up with a grapple. You reach and grab them with a grapple, you mess them up. The round bale is already round, the grapple's round, you reach and pick it, set it, no problems. And then when I go to feed the cows, y'all will see in the video how I feed the cows with either the bucket or the grapple on the tractor. Either one of them work to feed the cows. Thank you guys from Pecan Grove.
Smells like hay.
Look like hay. Everybody's wondering why I stacked it the way I stack it. Well, reason is when I get ready to unwrap it, I can just take the string off of it like I'm doing right now.
Instead of having to roll it around and around.
Yeah, you don't have to roll it around, around, around.
Doesn't tear your hay up.
Don't tear the hay up. That's right.
You don't have to cut it. You can actually reuse that string for something if you need to tie something up, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. If you wanted to, I mean, there's a lot of string here.
You could tie your plants up in the garden.
There's a whole pile of string right there.
You need a hook on the side to put that on every time.
And then I just take it. I can take my bucket right here, so I don't really have to do any lifting at all. I just roll it over in there, and I'm always clean. I clean up as much as I can. Now I'm just going to take it to the cows.
He's tearing it apart for you.
He's a character now.
He kept rolling it and rolling it. Look at him pick it up. It don't weigh much. He's just picking it up. You're too funny.
He's like a big old water buffalo.
Even the baby, Stormy's eating. I think they like our hay.
They love it.
He is too funny. Oh, Candy. She's running, she's showing off. Look at her. You're just mean. Stop.
Okay, they love. Duke's gonna stay wherever that roll is.
Yeah.
Watch him. This was actually the trash hay that I baled. This is
Under
not
the pecan trees.
under the pecan trees. This is not the ryegrass.
They enjoy it, and it looks good.
It smells like good hay.
Candy says she just can't stand it if
They
she's
just want to go wherever that roll is. The doctor says, I don't care.
She just eats everywhere. She stays out of the way. She said there's plenty on the ground.
To show you how funny cows are, where that grass does not eat at, right yonder. 2 months ago is where the 2 dogs caught a deer here on the property and was eating it at. They will not eat that grass where that deer was laying there and them dogs was eating it.
That's weird.
You see how it is?
Yeah, it's the only spot in the whole place.
Only spot in the whole place.
Hmm.
They can consume some grass, man.
Yeah.
You take Duke here, you watch how much hay's going in that cow's mouth.
A lot. He's done probably devoured a third of the bale right by himself.
And then for him to be a Dexter, he has turned out to be a big bull.
Yeah. His daddy was that way though.
He was. His daddy was a big, big old bull. And these old horse flies is just horrible on them this time of the year.
I'd say the mini bale's working pretty doggone good.
Yeah, they'll, it'll take them a day or so to clean all this up. You know, they'll keep coming back here eating and coming back and eating. And the good thing is it gets spread out like that. It's not all in one big pile. And it gives all of them an opportunity to actually eat. Stormy, what you doing, baby boy? Huh? What you doing, little man? He don't have no horns.
Isn't that awesome?
I don't
He
think
might be our new bull.
he don't
Raise
have,
him up from when Duke's not here.
He don't have any horns so far.
We'll see.
He's long-legged too.
He could breed Candy and Shushan,
Yeah.
and he would not have horns. That would be awesome.
He don't have
Because
any
neither
horns.
one of them have horns, do they?
No.
That would be an awesome trait to work into the herd.
They love their hay. Now, there's some ryegrass mixed in with this, but most of this was just weeds. It
It's
was up there in that
weeds, and they
pecan
like
orchard.
that. So
The Dexters have always been one that likes weeds more than they like
specialty hay.
specialty hay anyway. You buy that fertilized bahia grass, they won't even eat it.
Look at them. They
I got Duke, he's gonna knock it on around some more.
poor Stormy got in the middle of that one. He didn't mean
Yep.
to, but boy, Duke was trying. He was jumping over everything. He's over there, Mama, Mama. Look at him.
Look at Duke rubbing his head on that one. It no matter what you do, them horseflies are still gonna bother them.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't. They're gonna get up under their bellies and all that stuff, and that's one reason they stay in the barn as much as they do. Or they'll go up under them cedar trees out yonder in the
They
field.
rub on the cedar trees.
Yeah.
That's helped them a lot.
That helps them a lot. They rub on them cedar trees.
I think the cedar trees was a good thing.
Oh yeah, It's definitely a good thing.
All right, y'all. It's slightly hot standing here watching y'all playing hay.
Yep. Look at that.
Duke.
Duke, come on.
Really?
Knocking your boy around.
You turning into a bad bull. He said, well, he was in my way.
And Stormy don't mind.
He just gets up and chews on his grass and says, okay, whatever.
Yeah, he's getting where he lets me pet him a little bit in the mornings now when I'm feeding. He still don't eat no feed, which I like that. I don't want him to get used to eating feed all the time. But in the mornings, he'll lays there and he gets up and I rub him and pet on him, and
he'll be eating feed before long.
Yeah, he will. He'll eventually eat
But
some feed.
He's growing off good with just mama.
Yeah. And he eats really good. Grass and stuff like that. Hay.
He's eating hay really good.
He eats all that really good. Now he stays with Candy more than he does his own mama.
Mm-hmm.
The only time he wants mama is when it's time to eat. But anytime else you see him, he's over with Candy.
All right, cows. I'm going in. Y'all enjoy.
All right, we got to get out of here.